A very good morning, everyone. Myself, Vinuta, working as lecturer in Government Polytechnic, Mirle. I'd like to welcome you all for session 7 on formation of steam. So, in today's particular session, let us try to understand what you mean by a steam vapor cycle and how the Carnot cycle works. So, in previous session, if we look back into the session 6, we tried to solve a numerical examples on entropy, a very simple example on entropy, and we studied the definition of a steam table. That is a table where all the properties of steam has been tabulated can be defined as a steam table. And we studied the different types of steam table that is available. That is the two types of steam table, the pressure table and the temperature table. Next, we studied about the Mollier diagram. So, the graphical representation of the steam table can be defined as what? The Mollier diagram. So, this Mollier diagram is also called as the enthalpy entropy diagram. And next, what we did? We solved a numerical example where instead of considering a steam table, we used a Mollier chart to solve the problem. So, we solved two numericals with the help of the numerical chart, that is a Mollier chart. So, in today's session, let us try to understand what you mean by steam vapor cycle. So, if I consider that we have a heat engine. So, heat engine which is used to produce some external work done. What I'm considering a heat engine which is used to produce some external work. If that is the case, this heat engine will undergo a cycle to produce the external work. Okay, so this process where the power is generated by using the heat energy is called as the power cycles. Okay, so the power cycles are one in which the heat energy is converted into the mechanical work, is termed as the power cycles. In power cycles, we have two types of power cycles. One is air power cycles and another is vapor power cycles. So, air power cycle is one where air is used as the working medium. In vapor power cycles, the vapor will be used as the working substance. Okay, so in this today's particular session, we are going to concentrate on steam vapor cycle. So then what do you mean by a steam vapor cycle? A power cycle in which the steam has been used as a working substance can be defined as steam vapor cycle. So the condition of the steam, it may be vary. It may be a wet, dry or superheated. It does not matters. But the working substance must be steam in this particular vapor cycles. As I told you earlier itself, in this power cycles, the heat energy of the steam will be converted into external mechanical work. So this conversion will take place with the help of the various cycles, various power cycles. This power cycle can be categorized into the Carnot cycle and a Rankine cycle, and we have one more thing, that is modified Rankine cycle. So this modified Rankine cycle is not there in your syllabus for 5th sem diploma students. So I will not cover that particular cycle in the sessions. Now let us move on to the Carnot vapor cycle. So this is a typical or a line diagram of a Carnot cycle, Carnot vapor cycle, which consists of a boiler, a turbine, condenser and a compressor. So the major components of the Carnot cycle are, or it consists of, a boiler. Why boiler? The boiler is used in the first class, in the first session of in this particular session I have told you that the boiler is one where the water is going to convert it into steam. Okay, so boiler is a place where the steam is obtained. So what does this boiler do? It absorbs the heat energy released from the combustion of fuel. This heat energy, the boiler absorbs the heat energy to convert water into steam. Okay, the second thing is what? Turbine. So turbine, what does it do? This turbine is the place where the external work done will be taken place. So the steam which is produced in the boiler will be expanded in the turbine to do some external work. So in the turbine, the expansion of that steam will takes place, but in the expansion process there will be a reduction in the pressure. Let us see in the next slides. But the temperature will be more. To remove the temperature, that means to remove the heat from the steam or to condensate the steam into water, we are using this condenser. The steam which comes out of the turbine will be condensed with the help of this condenser. That is, the steam will be, the vapor form of steam will be converted into water form in this condenser. With the help of this condenser, the steam will be converted into the water. Next, the condensed steam will pass into the compressor. Why? In the compressor, it will be compressed to the high pressure. So these are the components of the Carnot cycle. So the Carnot cycle, what does it consist of? It consists of 4 major components, which are that a boiler, a turbine, condenser and a compressor. So the boiler is used for what? To produce steam. How the steam is produced? The steam is produced by utilizing the heat energy that is obtained from the burning from the combustion of the fuel. So the steam which is produced in the boiler will be expanded in the turbine, where it will be expanded in the turbine. This expanded steam will pass to the condenser, where the steam will be condensed. How? We are going to condense the steam with the help of, by passing a cold liquid. So this condensed liquid will pass into the compressor, where it will be compressed to a higher pressure, and this compressed steam will pass to the boiler. So the cycle repeats. So these are the components of the Carnot cycle. So let us watch a video Let us watch the video about the Carnot, how the Carnot cycle works.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Today's topic is the famous Carnot cycle. So what are the things that we need to know about this life-changing cycle? So first, well, it is an ideal heat engine cycle by a French physicist, Sadi Carnot. It utilizes heat energy transferring from a heat source to a sink. In addition, it composed of four reversible processes. The reversible process means direction can be returned to its original position. Also, it uses ideal gas as its working medium. And no doubt, this is a perfect engine. No friction between piston and cylinder walls, and no heat transfer between the surroundings and your system is considered. Now let's discuss how this interesting cycle works by exploring its processes, the four reversible processes. So now for the first process, process 1 to 2. This process is called isothermal expansion. Isothermal in thermodynamics means no change in temperature, or in other words, temperature is constant or not changing within this process. So what happens here is that the heat energy from the heat source is transferred into the ideal gas. As a result, the gas expands, which then increases the volume and decreasing the pressure. Now next, process 2 to 3, which is called an adiabatic expansion. Adiabatic in thermodynamics means that there is no heat transfer between surroundings and your system, or to put simply, all change in temperature is contained within a system, which as a result making the entropy zero. On this process, our volume increases and pressure decreases. Third process is the isothermal compression. So by compression, it means volume is decreased and as a result, pressure increases. On this process, heat energy from the gas is transferred into the heat sink. And finally, the last process. The last process is called the adiabatic compression. Since it's an adiabatic, all change in temperature is contained within a system, and our entropy is zero. Also, since this is compression, it means our volume decreases while our pressure increases. So that's it. That makes it a cycle. So now let me ask you this. Why Carnot cycle is the most efficient cycle? Well, it's because Carnot cycle is...
So, by observing the video, you understood the PV diagram of the Carnot cycle, right? So, in this session, let us try to understand PV and the TS diagram of the Carnot cycle. So, I told you this Carnot cycle, it consists of four components, the major components: a boiler, turbine, condenser and a compressor, right? So, this Carnot cycle, it consists of two isothermal. So, it consists of two isothermal process and two adiabatic process. What? The Carnot cycle, it consists of two isothermal process and two adiabatic process. So, in that, the first process is, let us consider the isothermal expansion. So, isothermal expansion what? So, the heating of the steam in a boiler, that is the process that is 1 to 2. So, the process of heating the water or a steam in a boiler, inside the boiler, is referred by the process 1 to 2. Okay. And remember, the expansion of the steam in the turbine is referred by the process 2 to 3. Understood? What is we are doing? The heating of the water inside the boiler, that is referred as 1 to 2 process, and the expansion of the steam in the turbine is referred as 2 to 3. Similarly, the condensation process is referred as the process 3 to 4, and the compression process is referred as 4 to 1. Understood? The boiling, the heating is 1 to 2, expansion is 2 to 3, and condensation is 3 to 4, and compression is 4 to 1. Okay, so what I told you, the Carnot cycle, it consists of two isothermal and two adiabatic process. So the first process is the process from 1 to 2. The process 1 to 2. Which is the process? It's the heating of the water or steam inside the boiler. That is the process 1 to 2. That we are going to refer it as isothermal expansion. Understood? So the process 1 to 2, I can write it here 1 to 2. You can write the process 1 to 2 itself. So the process 1 to 2 is referred as isothermal expansion, where the saturated water is converted into dry steam. So in the process 1 to 2, what is happening? The saturated water is converted into dry steam. How? What we are doing? We are boiling the water. Hence, we are converting the water into dry steam. How? Isothermally, that means the temperature remains as it is. If I say T1 as the initial temperature and T2 as the temperature at the point 2, then T1 is equal to T2. During this process, the temperature remains constant. That is what it is shown in the TS diagram. You can see. So when we are heating the water, that is when we are converting the water, the saturated water into dry steam. Okay. Remember, when I say a saturated water, the temperature is T saturated. Okay. So during this process, the temperature remains constant. We know that for particular heating of water, the pressure will be constant. So the pressure also constant. It's an ideal cycle what we are taking. Okay. We are assuming what? The pressure remains same and the temperature also remains same. There will be change in there will be expansion is taking place. The volume increases. There will be increase in volume. You can see from V1, the volume is increasing to V2. There is an increase in volume, but the temperature remains constant during this particular process. So the isothermal expansion, that is in process 1 to 2, we are converting the saturation water into dry steam. How? By keeping the temperature constant. Where we are doing this? We are doing this process in a boiler. And the heat absorbed during this particular condition is given by what? The heat absorbed is equal to the change in entropy into the absolute temperature. So in the process 1 to 2, which is the change in entropy? Is S2 minus S1. S2 minus S1, which is the temperature we have? We have temperature as T1. So that is the heat supplied. So why we are supplying the heat? We are supplying this heat to convert the saturation water into a dry steam. This process is carried inside the boiler. For this particular, the heat absorbed. What is the heat supplied we are doing? We are supplying the heat to the boiler to convert the saturation water into the dry steam. So that is given as S2 minus S1 into temperature. That is absolute temperature. So S2 minus S1, which is the temperature we have, T1. I can write it as T2 also. We can write it as S2 minus S1 into T2. Okay. So now let us come for the second process, that is isentropic expansion. The isentropic expansion is process what? The process 2 to 3 is called as isentropic expansion. So in isentropic expansion, it is taking place where? It is taking in the turbine, during the turbine process, that is by doing the external work. It is taking place inside the turbine. So what we are trying to tell that while expansion of steam is taking place, it's taking place at constant entropy process. So the isentropic process means the entropy during this particular process will remains constant, but there will be what? There will be a reduction in the temperature. Okay, so the temperature will be reduced to T3. So this process is indicated by the curve 2 to 3. What does it indicate? It indicates the adiabatic expansion. So the adiabatic expansion is represented by 2 to 3, where the dry steam is expanded isentropically in the turbine. Since, so in the previous itself we wrote it as S2 minus S1. Since the heat supplied is equal to the difference between the entropy, since the entropy is constant, the heat supplied or heat rejected will be 0. Understood? So what's happening in this process? The process 2 to 3 is taking place inside the turbine. So what is happening? The steam is expanded inside the turbine. Why? To do some useful work. So during this process, there is no heat supplied or there is no heat rejected. Hence, since the entropy is constant, the heat supplied or heat rejected during this particular process is 0. So the third process is isothermal compression. So this isothermal compression can be referred as process 3 to 4. The process 3 to 4 is called as isothermal compression process. So this isothermal compression will take place where? In the condenser. During the condensation process, it is referred as the isothermal compression process. So during this process, what we are trying to tell, the temperature will remain constant, but there will be a change of phase. But there will be a change of phase from steam to the water. That is, the vapor, the steam is going to be converted into the water form. But during this particular process, the temperature will remain constant and the pressure also remains constant. But in this particular process, there will be a reduction in the volume. The volume reduces from V3 to V4. Okay, so what's happening in this particular process? In this particular process, there is a compression of, why compression? There is a reduction in the volume. Hence, I'm calling it as a compression, compress. There will be a reduction in the volume. Hence, we are calling it as a compression process. So, it's an isothermal compression. Why? There will be no change in the temperature. During this particular process, the temperature remains constant. Hence, we are calling it as an isothermal compression process. Why compression? There is a reduction of volume from V3 to V4. Hence, it's a compression process. So, during this process, heat is rejected to the, so what is happening? There is a change of phase from vapor to the water form. So, if there must be a change means, then the heat must be rejected to the system. It has to be, the heat must be given out of the system. So that is, the heat is rejected from the steam to the surrounding. This heat is rejected at what? At constant temperature process. So this heat rejected is given as S3. You know that S3, it is a process from 3 to 4, that is S3 minus S4. Since S3 is greater, I am writing S3 minus S4. The temperature is what? It is T3. See here, it is not T1, it is T3. Okay. So, you can write T3. So, what is that? It's S3 minus S4 into T3. Okay. So, we know that S3 is equal to S2. So, in place of S3, I'll write as S2. And in place of S4 is equal to S1. I'll write it as S1 into T3. Therefore, the heat rejected is given as S2 minus S1 into T3. So the last process is isentropic compression. The process 4 to 1 is referred as isentropic compression process. In this process, the wet steam, I told you there's a conversion of steam. What? The dry steam, the dry saturated steam has been converted into a wet steam. So, this wet steam is compressed isentropically in the compressor. Okay, it's compressing from V4 to V1. But how? Isentropical process, that is, the entropy remains constant during this particular process, and there will be reduction in the pressure. So, till where? Till it reaches the original state of temperature and pressure. Okay. So, during this particular process, the wet steam has been compressed isentropically. It is reducing from V4 to V1. That is from V4, that is S4 to S1. We can say S1. So that there is a what? Raise in the temperature. The temperature increases, but the entropy during this particular process is constant. Hence, heat supplied or heat rejected will be 0 for this particular process. So, then how can I calculate the efficiency of this Carnot cycle? We know that the work done is given by heat supplied minus heat rejected. So, the heat supplied was S2 minus S1 into T1. That is the heat supplied, and heat rejected is S2 minus S1 into T3. So, since S2 minus S1 is common, I'll take it out. So, which is the remaining thing? T1 minus T3. So, I can write like this, right? Okay. This is the net work done. So, net work done is given by T1 minus T3 into S2 minus S1. Okay, this is the net work done. Then how can I calculate the efficiency? Generally, we call efficiency as output by input. Right? We call efficiency as what? Output by input. What is the output we are obtaining? We are converting the heat energy into the work done. So, work done is the output what we are obtaining. What we are supplying to the engine? We are supplying the heat energy. So, the heat supplied will be the input. It will be the input to the system. So, the work done will be the output and heat supplied will be the input to the system. Therefore, efficiency is given as work done by heat supplied. So, for the work done, we know that it's T1 minus T3 into S2 minus S1. Heat supplied is what? T1 into S2 minus S1. This S2 minus S1 it will get cancelled. We are remaining with T1 minus T3 by T1. So, this is the equation for efficiency for Carnot cycle. So, the efficiency of Carnot cycle is given as T1 minus T3 by T1. So, let us recall the Carnot cycle once. The Carnot cycle consists of 4 important parts: a boiler, turbine, condenser and a compressor. This Carnot cycle consists of 2 isothermal process and 2 adiabatic process. The process 1 to 2 indicates the isothermal expansion process. That means during this process the temperature remains constant, but there will be a change in entropy. The entropy changes from S1 to S2. during this, why I am telling expansion, there will be expansion of the steam takes place from V1 to V2. So what is happening in this particular process? The saturated water is converted into a dry steam. So the heat supplied is given as what? S2 minus S1 into T1. So the second process is isentropic expansion process. In this, the steam is expanding isentropically in the turbine. During this particular process, the isentropy or the entropy remains constant. That is S2 will be equal to, that is S1 will be equal to, sorry, this S2 will be equal to S3. Right. S3 will be equal to S2. So, hence, since the entropy is constant, heat supplied or heat rejected will be 0 during this particular process. So, in isothermal compression process, it's a compression process where the steam is compressing from V3 to V4. So, this process will be taking place inside the condenser. So, this heat rejected is given as what? S2 minus S1 into T3. So, the last process is the isentropic compression process, where again there will be a compression of the volume from V4 to V1. During this process, there will be an increase in temperature from T4 to T1. Okay. So, since the entropy, again the entropy S1 equals S4, the entropy remains constant. Hence, heat supplied or heat rejected will be 0 in this particular case. So, at last, as I told you earlier itself, the efficiency is given by output by input, that is the work done by heat supplied. The efficiency is given as T1 minus T3 by T1, where T indicates the initial temperature or higher temperature, or T3 indicates the lower temperature by the initial temperature. That is, efficiency equals T1 minus T3 by T1. This is the equation to find out the efficiency of the Carnot cycle. So, the efficiency of the Carnot cycle is given as what? T1 minus T3 by T1. So, now let us see the limitation of Carnot cycle. So, what we assume, even we're going to assume that the Carnot cycle has got the highest thermal efficiency. Why? Since T1 is the initial temperature and T3. So, since it's the highest and lowest temperature, the thermal efficiency will be highest. But this is not true in the actual working. Why it is not possible? So, in the Carnot cycle, what we are saying that in the compressor, we go into compress the steam, compress the wet steam in isentropically, but this compression is very difficult in actual condition. So, it is difficult to compress a wet vapor isentropically. So, this is one of the drawback or limitation of the Carnot cycle. So, the second limitation is what? So, this liquid or a steam which comes out of the condenser. So, we can't control the quality of this condensate. That is, we can't find out the exactly way, what is the quality of the steam for this particular process. Whether steam is completely dry or completely, so we don't have any control over the condensation process. So that is the main drawback of the limitation of the Carnot cycle. So it is difficult to control the quality of the condensate which is coming out of the condenser. Got it? So during explaining, we told that in the expansion process, the volume of the steam is going to be expanded. There will be an increase in the volume. So we know that specific volume of liquid vapor will be very more. So if I want to compress this large or a huge liquid, then we need a large compressor will be required. which consumes more energy. So if the compressor has to work, we need to supply the work. Okay, so the work input will be more. So where with this compression process itself will consume more energy. So that is the drawback of the Carnot cycle. What is the drawback? Since the specific volume of the liquid vapor is very high, the size of the compressor that is required to compress this vapor is more. So we need a larger compressor to compress it. Hence, what does it do? It reduces the efficiency of the Carnot cycle and the work ratio. Both the efficiency and the work ratio of the Carnot cycle will be reduced since we required a very large compressor to compress the vapor. So what we are telling? We are converting the steam or wet steam, saturated water into a dry steam or a superheated steam. So by obtaining a superheated steam, we know that there will be an increase in temperature. But we are telling the temperature remains constant. So maintaining the constant temperature is very difficult in case of the Carnot cycle. Hence, operation of this particular cycle in practical is impossible. So these are the limitations of Carnot cycle. What are the limitations? The first one, so it is difficult to compress the wet vapor isentropically. So the compression itself is difficult. The second one is control of the quality of the condensate is difficult. And third one is, since the specific volume of the vapor is much more larger, the size that is required to compress this liquid or a vapor, we need a larger compressor. This compressor, what does it do? It reduces the efficiency of the plant and work ratio. And since the process 1 to 2, we are telling that it's a constant temperature process. Since in the superheated condition, the temperature increases as the heat supplied, it is very difficult to maintain a constant temperature. Hence, the Carnot cycle is very difficult to operate in practical condition. So in today's particular session, we learned the definition of the vapor power cycle, and next we learned the working of the Carnot cycle. I hope you all understood the working of a Carnot cycle. That's all for today's session. Thank you one and all.